Believe it or not, you're not behind on AI for now, because the truth is most people still don't know how to use AI effectively. So just by watching this video, you know more about AI than 90% of people out there. And if you make it all the way to the end, you'll be in the top 1% of users. Over the past year, I've personally built hundreds of AI solutions across every major platform to help dozens of business owners, service professionals, and everyday people implement AI tools that turn AI into their most valuable assets. So today, I'm going to show you how AI actually works, the fundamentals you need to use it, how to master it, and how to future-proof yourself so AI works for you instead of replacing you. Let's start with how AI actually works. So when you typically ask someone what they think AI is, they come up with two beliefs, and most of them are pretty incomplete, right? So they start with either saying that AI is magic or a fancy autocomplete. Both of these beliefs actually keep you stuck. And what AI is almost read up on every single human piece of context, pages, information, and broken into tokens. And with those tokens, it's able to guess the most logical next piece based on what you give it. So let's say, for example, if I say peanut butter, most people automatically think of jelly, right? And that's all AI is doing, just across everything humans have ever written. It's predicting, and it's doing this at scale. That prediction is what turns into real reasoning. So one important distinction here that I want to mention is that the quality of what comes out is capped by the quality of what you put in. What I'm talking about is when you type in a question, maybe one sentence, you don't give your AI super plentiful context and details about what you want. So a one-line text message is going to give a generic answer out. So if you have full picture of what you want your AI to do and what type of question you want to answer, then it has a more sharp and refined answer. So AI is smart and it has a lot of powers and capabilities, but when it is limited on the context that you and your business have, it's one of the biggest gaps and makes the big difference between a generic answer and a great one. But knowing that isn't enough, and most people nod along and go right back to treating AI the same way as a random tool that they might use every once in a while, even further ahead of you in their AI journey. You're not late, you're just not using it to its full capabilities. How do we even address those capabilities that we're lacking when we're using AI? So to start, you want to start with the fundamentals. So let's say two people open the same exact ChatGPT and get wildly different results. The same tool, but opposite outcomes. And why is that? We want to question why one person might get something richer, more useful for the business, while the other person doesn't have much at all and has to constantly go back and improve prompts and edits throughout their whole AI usage. I call this the chatbot trap. It's where the AI feels productive the second you touch it. People never really realize that they've stopped climbing and improving their usage skills. So there's 3 different levels to this, and I want you to figure out which one you're on right now. So starting at the lowest level, or the first step on the ladder, is the player. You chat with it, you say, maybe write me an email, give me a caption, what is the capital of France? It's fun, fast, and about 90% of people live here forever. They treat it as almost like an improved search engine or like a Google. If you use AI this way, you won't really see its full capabilities, and you won't be able to actually tell whether it's helping you or not, because the same answers that the AI is giving you, you can get from Google, but just more directly, right? Which might save maybe a few seconds or a few minutes from your day to day. When you want to really be is start to build systems and architect repeatable patterns that help the AI build more context around you. And that way you'll be able to see how it changes your day-to-day workflows and your work tasks. All right, moving on to step 2. The operator. AI does real chunks of the actual work because you fed it the real context, right? This is where the leverage actually starts, because once your AI is given more context and details about a specific project or task that you want to build, it's able to approach it from the same framework of thinking that you might have in mind. And over time, this begins to compound over multiple projects, one that does really well, and it's the second one that compounds off of that. So the more you use your AI system and personalize it, and the more context you feed it over time, it's able to really turn into almost your second brain and give you almost near perfect results and point of views that you probably wouldn't have. So when you're able to give yourself a second brain, that it pretty much everything that you would ask your AI or do for your AI, it gives you the ability to stop treating it like a software and more like a teammate, and give you perspectives that you probably wouldn't even have thought of. And moving on to the final level, level 3, the architect. So this is where you probably build AI systems that run without you sitting there typing. This is the level I build for businesses personally, and it's much closer to implement and less of a far strange idea than you might think. Because I think when people have AI problems and they hear custom solutions, they might shy away from it just because maybe some bad journalism that they've heard, or people have disaster stories using AI, right? So I think it's really important to understand how custom this AI should be for your platform and your use cases. In doing so, you need to map out where exactly people are currently investing a lot of time and slowly implement AI to reduce the amount of time people spend. So you and your team can spend more time actually doing strategic strategical work that'll move the business forward. You actually don't have an AI problem, you have a level problem. And today we're getting you off of level 1. So the first climb, player to operator, comes down to one skill almost nobody is taught: how to actually feed it. So when you or your team is first introduced to AI and how to actually benefit from it, everyone tells you to just kind of prompt better, give it more information and richer information. So nobody tells you what better actually means. So everything in your team and your workflow stays vague and how they use AI. This shouldn't be the issue, right? Because there's so many ways you can add more context to your AI systems, whether through context files, RAG systems, vector databases, knowledge graphs, AI brains, Carpathy, Obsidian. So many different methods and ways that will actually benefit your business through the use of AI by giving it specific types of context. So one thing I want you to start doing today is, before you hit enter on your next task, ask yourself one thing: could a brand new hire complete this task from what I just wrote with 0 follow-up questions? If not, you didn't just prompt badly, you just underfed it. And I call that the onboarding test. So there's actually 4 pieces that you can implement right now that will actually help you with your prompting journey when you're using AI. So the first, starting with the role, when you tell it who to be. So for example, if I tell my AI, act like a conversion-focused marketing strategist, that'll have it assume a responsibility and also put it in the framework of how it should respond to different questions and how it should frame the output. So 2, context. Give it the background a new hire would need, like notes, transcripts, any data connectors. And a lot of tools and AI platforms these days have a number of different connectors that you can connect your data with, like Gmail, Calendly, any data tools that you pull directly to get your numbers from. So this adds more context and makes the data more rich to give you sufficient answers that you can actually use. Moving on to the next, the goal. Be explicit about the outcome. Make the implicit explicit. So what type of output should the AI have and how should it answer the question, right? Because if you don't have a clearly defined goal, the AI is just going to randomly just start putting out tokens, right? Because it's going to use the average corpus of information that's able to pull from and supplement that whatever you don't give it. And lastly, the format. Tell the AI how you want the output standardized. If you want it in bullets, table, a one-pager, CSV. So this is something I use quite a lot when I want my output formatted a specific way, because, a lot of AI slop has a ton of M dashes, and it's a telltale sign that, you're using AI. And it's not frowned upon, but it just clearly reads as, something quick that you just produced that didn't really take too much thought. So changing the format to a consistent way that you want your output to look and sound will help remove a little bit of that, stigma related to any AI related content. Let's see what this actually looks like in practice, right? I'm in Claude right now, and I have one prompt that I gave: write a LinkedIn post about using AI in business. And this is what it gave, right? It's not terrible. It looks like a decent LinkedIn post, but the thing is, everything that it gives is going to be an average, right? So let's say another person that asked an AI the same question, their result is probably going to be somewhere around this, right? It's going to sound the same, probably somewhere identical, and it's not going to give us much leverage when we start to post on LinkedIn, right? If everyone's getting the same type of output. Definitely kind of what I'm seeing now on LinkedIn. If I give it another prompt where I say, you write LinkedIn posts in my voice, direct, a little contrarian, no emojis, no hype. This is none of that excited to share energy. Write one for me, my audience, small business owners, blah, blah, blah. Open with a specific, slightly uncomfortable observation. So all these are telling it what role it should assume, the format, context, and the goal that it should have when doing all this, right? So let's see what this actually gives. It says something bold in the hook, a little bit different. You see that these formats are even different, right? From the first post that it gave to the second one. Even though the lengths might not be too much different, it's the actual substance and content. This right here sounds more like me and is something closer to what I would actually post on LinkedIn. This just shows how changing the role, context, goal, and also formatting of your specific AI output, doing so can have very marginable changes that can actually lead to greater output and quality of output as well. So here's one insider tip that I think would benefit a lot of people, because I think with giving it more context, there's one thing where you also have to end up typing a lot more. Some people dread, and it's like you just have to, just put more energy and effort. So I think one way that I would also suggest is you tell the AI to ask it any context questions and things that it would find helpful from you. What this looks like is you say, ask me anything you're unclear of, and then you'll see that Claude specifically, for example, it'll go through a sequence of different questions that'll help you ultimately give the context that it needs, right? So I think that's one way that people could also benefit without having to overly type so much and feel like they're forcing things to put into the chat window instead of really being more useful and being the most substantial when it comes to that. So the key takeaway from this section is that your output is only as good as your input. Whatever you leave out, the AI fills with average information. But at the same time, even a perfect prompt is wasted if you're hopping between 5 different tools every week and mastering none of them. So most people get tunnel vision with their AI tool of choice in their platform, and they stick to one platform out of habit without ever questioning if it's actually the right fit for their specific workflow. So for example, if you're in the Google suite and you have Gmail, Google Drive, and it's one of the things that you have on an enterprise level, maybe at least using Gemini's capabilities for any Word docs and anything that has to do with summarizing Gmail, that might just be already integrated. So that's one thing that you might want to lean into. For example, if you're in a Microsoft Suite system, using Copilot just might be the first introduction that can get your team and yourself acclimated to using AI in the parts that are most beneficial to the business because it's already integrated with those tools that you use every day. Sticking to one AI tool because it's familiar is like a carpenter using his pocket knife for everything just because it's already in his hand. He's not failing, but he's also ignoring the power tools on the bench that would actually fit the job and make it a lot easier. You're not forcing it, you're just on autopilot. Choosing a habit over the right tool for your workflow is probably going to set you back and get you in a rigid kind of trajectory that doesn't really allow you to reap the benefits of AI usage in your systems. So I'll just quickly give a breakdown on the AI tools and platforms that are available and where their strengths lie and when to use them. So first, starting with ChatGPT, it's a great all-around platform to use. It has the most integrations and a very huge ecosystem. It's the safest first pick getting into AI. Second is Claude. Its strengths have to do with writing, reasoning, long documents, Claude Code, if that's something that you're using it for. If your work is dealing with a lot of words and thinking, this is where you want to lean into. And as I touched on earlier, like Gemini, up-to-date info with anything that's research related, and then anything that lives in the Google ecosystem. So if you're using Google tools every day, this might be where you might want to lean into. So the key point I want to drive home in this section is make sure you choose a tool that makes the most sense for you and your workflows. So make sure you're picking one that fits what you do day to day and also makes the most sense for you and your team to make use of, right? Because if your team and yourself are all on the same page as far as what platform you're using, how you're using it, and what are the specific outputs, it makes it so much easier for you and your team to get more collaboration done and get a lot more effective work done. So let's say you've gone deep and you started using one platform, one tool, giving it so much context that's able to answer your questions with more quality. What's next, right? Because you can't start and keep doing one-off prompts and, just getting great output without starting to automate some of that process. So this next phase that we're stepping into is the builder. So here's how you master building with AI systems to get more consistent output at a fraction of the time invested. At this point, you started to get great outputs, but you're retyping the same thing every single time. The same context, same instructions over and over again, right? Mastery isn't just better prompts. It's saving the work once so it runs forever. When you stop prompting and you start building, that's the main difference and takeaway from this section. So there's 3 steps I think people can start implementing today to be able to build with AI and build systems around their AI usage in their workflows. So starting with step 1 is building a context file. Write down who you are, what you do, who you serve, the different types of customers, how you work, and this all just gets written down one time. And then you feed it into any tool so it never treats you like a stranger again. For example, if I was a marketing agency working with only food brands, I'd want it to have a file that would have customers I work with, the solutions I build for them, our different SOPs that would help the AI be able to decide how it should answer certain things and whatnot, so I don't have to constantly repeat that. So the next step is we package that context file into a folder, and now your setup is just a button and not a paragraph that you retype. So think of it that you have your context file finally, and instead of retyping this all the time, you're able to just drop this in a project folder. So when you have a specific project or workflow you're working on, the context from that specific project is already in the folder and it pulls from it every single time. You can do this across your overarching AI platform, or you can also just have it so it's specific to a folder. And finally, we let the workflow run autonomously. This is where you're able to connect it to a simple workflow and you have it do tasks on its own. This is the architect level, and this is where AI stops being a chatbot and it starts being a real tangible asset for your business. So I know when you tell people to build systems and build things with AI that do one task and 1,000 different tasks, whatever, it does sound intimidating, right? But it doesn't even have to be, because right now I'm in Claude and I run scheduled tasks that actually help with keeping my output at the same quality that I prefer them without having me to type in a whole bunch of things every day, right? So for example, we just walked over a LinkedIn post that I gave specific criteria for, but now I turned it into a scheduled task where it takes the context and how I like my things formatted and gives me weekly posts every Sunday at 7 p.m., fitting the format and context that I provided all the time. So the output remains consistent, and now it's handoff because it knows when it's supposed to run and how the output should look. So every time I can expect that same quality. And another example is when I have a call booked, right? Through Calendly, it pulls a prospect's name, does research on them, and proposes me how the call should go, probably what they're going to be looking at as a solution. And then it just allows me to be more well prepped before a call. So these are just some small examples of how you can go from standard improvement of your prompt all the way to a system that allows you to be enabled day to day, right? There's so many efficiency gains when it comes to just going from prompting and then changing the output into this, where you do all that, but just autonomously on the same output quality. So while most tutorials only stop at the prompt, and the prompt does it once, but the system does it forever with quality. What role or task would you automate and schedule using these AI foundations? Share your top priority in the comments, and I'll suggest something helpful to you. But, building all this raises the obvious fear, right? If AI can do your work, what stops it from replacing you? We know that AI is moving at a rapid rate. Every week, it seems like there's something new in the industry and it's shifting forward, right? AI is moving fast. It keeps you wondering, where are you going to be in 6 months to a year from now? You make AI work for you instead of replacing you by leaning into the 3 things it can't fake. Starting with one, which is taste. AI can generate thousands of options. It can't tell you which one is actually good. That judgment is going to come from you and be yours only, and it's going to get more valuable over time. The next is judgment. So machines optimize what already exists, right? But deciding what is even worth building, that's a human decision. And lastly, it's trust. Deals still close between people, so the relationships, the care, the room that you're able to read, that's all human work. And the AI can't really replicate that. And it really takes you and your business to levels that are really inseparable from the AI itself. And the one part that I want to drive home here is, if you're a business owner, you want to lean into your human advantage, right? So let's say you have a killer sales team and they all are able to remediate any tickets and things that come across because they're super personable with the customers. So that's something that you don't want to just automate and hand over to AI, because that's your competitive edge, right? And also, if I was someone that had a ton of repeat customers and was able to get a ton of different referrals through that, that's something that helps your business downstream. And you don't want to necessarily hand that over to AI and automate yet, because it's something that's working in your favor that other competitors in your industry aren't able to replicate as easily. All right, so here's the truth, right? You're not behind on AI, you're just early. Most businesses haven't even started using this in a real way. So just by watching this, you're already ahead. The way that I see the market heading now is in a completely different direction, right? And just adopting AI at the lowest level or just claiming to use AI every day for work, it's not really going to cut it. And people do want to see real results and real systems that drive actual business value and save people time. So I think the earlier you can get on this wave and lock in and implement all these things that I told you about, you're going to be better off in the future. So do one thing this week, pick a single task that you repeat every week and make AI do it with quality, and then build a system that does it autonomously without you. 10 minutes of doing that beats 10 hours of watching. I'll see you in the next one.